Oh my gosh, thank you, Sanctuary Singers. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to UUCA. We are a community of all backgrounds, races, genders, and sexual orientations. We intentionally honor the diverse abilities of people, including disabilities, both seen and unseen. Whether you're joining us for the first time or the 100th, and whether you're sitting here in Arlington or tuning in online, we are honored to worship with you this morning. My name is Dan Patterson. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a grateful member of the Board of Trustees. I have just a couple of announcements. On behalf of the UU The Vote team, a reminder that Virginia's special election is this Tuesday, April 21st. This vote includes a constitutional amendment on redistricting, which will shape how our voices are represented. Please take a moment to learn about the ballot and make a plan to vote because your voice matters. A week from today, April 26th, the Board of Trustees is hosting a visioning session to gather input from our religious education, RE families, on UUCA's long-term mission and North Star. The board wants to hear from parents, guardians, and those in a parenting role to help define the church's future purpose. To make it easier to attend, both lunch, pizza, and childcare will be provided. Again, that's April 26th from 11:45 to 1:30 downstairs in the activity room. After today's service, we'd love to see you in Fellowship Hall for coffee and a lively chat. If you'd prefer a quieter space, feel free to bring your coffee to the welcome room, which is just down the hallway to the right as you leave the sanctuary. One of our friendly Sunday ambassadors will be there to answer questions or to simply enjoy some relaxed conversation with you. We know there are 1,000 places you could be on Sunday, and we're so grateful you're here with us today. Thank you.
Dan, thank you so much for that welcome and for your service, and welcome, folks. I'm the Reverend Amanda Pappy. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm honored to serve as senior minister here at UUCA. I serve alongside my colleague, the Reverend Carol Thomas Sissel, our Minister of Social Justice and Community Development, who is a few weeks into her 2-month sabbatical. She'll be back with us in June, so we are wishing her well. And so today, I get to share worship with Zeke, who is one of our worship associates, with our sanctuary, yes, I also agree, with our sanctuary singers led by our director of music, David Mann. I'm grateful for everyone who makes worship possible. Our AV team, reminder that we're looking for some folks to learn totally teachable our camera work for our live streaming. So head on back and talk with Cameron or Wesley, who are back there now, or with Art, who is here in the space, because I saw him walk in with Stephanie this morning. There he is, down the aisle about that. Our cup washers and our coffee makers and our teachers and our nursery care providers, all of the staff and volunteers, and all of you who make worship happen simply by being here, by being church, being community together. So I am grateful for that. If you are watching online, I invite you to say hello in the chat so we know you're there. You know each other are there, more importantly. If you're in the space, I invite you to turn toward each other and say hello this morning. Good morning. Well, good morning. Good morning. As you take your seats, I invite you to keep that conversation and connection going when you head to Fellowship Hall or to the welcome room after service, and as we stay connected to each other. I felt like I should say this morning, welcome to, I guess, the season of winter. I'm pretty sure we had summer last week. Maybe this is fall or we skipped it entirely. I don't know. But indeed, welcome. Welcome however you arrived this morning. Welcome if you came like me thinking perhaps you should have brought a blankie with you and cuddled up for a cozy Sunday. Welcome if you do have a blankie with you and you stayed cuddled up at home on a cozy Sunday. Welcome if you are full of joy at the events of the last week in your life, if life feels as though it is opening and blossoming before you like spring. Welcome if you are carrying disappointments and hurts with you, if your heart feels broken in ways that may not be seen from the outside. Welcome if you are weary, and welcome if you are wide awake. Welcome into this space, the one that we create together, over and over, building anew each day.
Each week, before we light our chalice, we first light a candle of compassion, a symbol of our care for and solidarity with all who are suffering, all who are experiencing violence, all who are fearful or lonely. This week, we especially think of victims of domestic violence and those facing violence inside the home. And along with our sibling Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world, we light a chalice. The words are in your order of service. We gather together as a community of memory and hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both light and warmth to the world.
Oh, we had a little trouble with our chalice lighting there this morning, but thank goodness for a spare candle. Sometimes it takes all of us. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in our first song this morning. And I'll take just a moment as you do so. You can go ahead and do so. There we go. We got it. I know. It is a very sleepy Sunday, isn't it? I'll take a moment as we do so to make sure that you take a look at our insert this morning. This is a Mosaic Sunday, one of our monthly Sundays, where we intentionally and fully center BIPOC voices in the music and the readings that we share on Sunday mornings in a particular way, more so even than regular Sundays. And so I invite you to learn more about some of our contributors in that insert. But now, let us sing together. The lyrics are in your order of service, so no need for a hymnal as we sing. Thanks.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on a-walking, keep on a-talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let racism turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let racism turn me round. I'm gonna keep on a-walking, keep on a-talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Gonna keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up to freedom land.
Thank you so much. And Rondrick, I think, is this your first time song leading on Sunday morning? All right. I love it. Makes me think of the last time I think you were on the chancel without the choir, which was in our ukulele band, briefly, yeah? We are lucky here. I want to invite our younger folks, if you would like, to come and join me for a story. Come on up and sit on the rug if you'd like. I'm going to tell you an old story. Do we all just need our blankies this morning? Maybe. That you can stay in your seats too. Thanks, Zeke. I appreciate it. Anybody want to join Zeke so he's not all alone on the rug? Oh, great. Come on up. Hey. All right, there we go. Excellent. Well, I have an old story to tell you. It's a folk tale, which usually means a story that's been handed down over and over by different people over time. One person told another person told another person. And I couldn't figure out sort of the original people that maybe told this story, or even where in the country or where in the world the story came from. But I do know that a version of this story was told by the author Toni Morrison in her acceptance speech when she won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1993. So if the story feels familiar to you, it could be. It's because you've read that speech or heard it, or it could be that you are one of the people that heard this story as it was passed down along the generations. Here's how it goes. There was once a wise woman who lived by herself near a small village. Rumor had it that she could always accurately predict when the rains would come, or help heal a sick child with herbs, or calm angry neighbors and help them to resolve their fights and their arguments. People came from all over the land to meet with her and seek her advice on matters both small and great. Her reputation was such that it was said that she was never wrong. Not ever. Do you know anyone like that? Sort of people who just seem wise, as though they could help you make big decisions in life. That's who this woman was in this village where she lived. Well, some of the children in the village didn't believe that it was possible to always be right. Surely she couldn't know everything. They decided to test her knowledge. First, they asked her to answer questions about the planets, about the animals, and the world. No matter how hard the questions, she always answered correctly. The children were amazed at her knowledge and learning, and most were ready to stop testing the wise woman and just be grateful that she shared with them. However, one boy was determined to prove that the old woman couldn't know everything. Hatching a devious scheme, devious means like tricky, he told all of his friends to meet him at the woman's home the following afternoon so he could prove that she was a faker. All through the next day, he hunted for a bird. Maybe we can do some little, could you know how to make birds? Looks like birds in your hands. Oh yeah, there we go. Well, it could be a butterfly. This was a bird. So if you would like to do you have a different hand motion for a bird? Oh, like this? Okay, maybe we'll have some birds like this and some birds like this. All through the next day, he hunted for a bird. Finally, he caught a small songbird in a net. Holding it behind his back so no one could see what was in his hands, he walked triumphantly to the wise woman's home. "Old woman," he called, Come and show us how wise you are. The woman walked calmly to the door. May I help you? She simply asked. You say you know everything. Prove it. What am I holding behind my back? The young boy demanded. The old woman thought for a moment. She could make out the faint sounds of the bird's wings rustling. How do you think it would sound? Like, oh yeah. I do not say I know everything, for that would be impossible, she replied. However, I do believe you are holding a bird in your hands. Well, the boy was furious. How could the woman have possibly known he had a bird? Thinking quickly, he came up with a new scheme. He would ask the woman whether the bird was alive or dead. If the woman replied alive, he would crush it with his hands and prove her wrong. If she answered dead, on the other hand, he would pull the living bird from behind his back and allow it to fly away. Either way, he would prove his point, and the wise woman would be discredited. Well, very good, he called. It is a bird. But tell me, is the bird I am holding alive or dead? The wise woman paused for a long moment while the boy waited with anticipation for his opportunity to prove her wrong. Again, the woman spoke calmly. The answer, my young friend, is in your hands. The answer is in your hands. The boy realized that the wise woman had once again spoken correctly and truthfully. The answer was indeed in his own hands. Feeling the bird feebly moving in his hands as it tried to escape his grasp, he suddenly felt ashamed. The answer was in his hands, and so slowly and gently he brought his hands to the front of his body. Looking into the eyes of the little bird, he apologized. I am sorry, little one. And he opened his hands to let her go free. Well, with that old story told from person to person, I invite you to head to your classes, to look for the songbirds, and we'll make an arch with our hands as we all go free. We'll sing our kids on our way.
Peace to you on your way. May you grow in love each day, meeting new friends and opening your mind to the wonders of the world you will find, to the wonders of the world you will find.
The answer indeed is in our hands over and over again. Before Zeke invites us into a time of meditation and of prayer, I want to draw your attention to two pieces of sharing news in our community that are from the Wheel of Life email last week and also are listed in your order of service. One is that there is a memorial service coming up this Saturday for John Gunning. I hope that you will join us to help John's family and the choir remember him. And also sad news to share about the death of a minister who served this congregation some years ago, the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore, who has been serving as lead minister at the Shelter Rock congregation in Long Island, but was the intern here at UUCA some years ago, entered hospice and died this past week. And so we send care to Natalie's husband, Chuck, to their children, and to the Shelter Rock congregation and the ministers continuing to serve there. I want to share two joyful transitions and news. The Reverend Dr. Laura Solomon, who served much more recently as an intern here at UUCA, was installed yesterday at the congregation that they serve in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County, Pennsylvania. I was privileged to be there to celebrate with them. So we hold in our hearts all the transitions through life and in this congregation and community this morning.
Now, as we move deeper into service, I invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze. In the midst of running from my problems, from myself, from one necessary task to the next, I listen to that impulse within me, the one that reminds me that I could keep running blindly my whole life, days and months speeding into years, losing all perspective. I am reminded that learning how to rest and abide in you is in part how I learn to rest and abide with me. I need you, source of all creation, as deeply as I need myself, as deeply as I long for comfort, reassurance, guidance, and trust. Your presence feels so distant, too distant, when I am living life as if it's a marathon, waiting to be won. Help me, instead, recall that slowing down can be just as important, perhaps at times more important than speeding to get things done. Help me remember, beloved, that the longings of my heart are never satisfied by the sprint, but rather by the slow, languid meander. Help me remember that my weary spirit may be weary because of all my running. I can choose to slow down. Help me make that choice. Walk with me as I make that choice.
Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí, ya corazón, cántale tu compasión, sopla ola, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arráigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
That prayer, by the way, was entitled Slowing Down by Manish Mishra Marzetti. Each Sunday, we share our offering with an organization whose values align with this community's. 70% of the funds collected are donated to the group, and 30% stay within UUCA to support the congregation's work. This month, the Share the Plate recipient group is Alive, and we have Carlton from Alive to come share.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So my name is Carlton Willis, and I'm the president of Alive. I'm also a deacon at Alfred Street Baptist Church, which is in Old Town. Church has been around since 1803, and I'm a fifth-generation member there, so we've been there about 150 years or so. If you don't know anything about Alive, I'll just say a couple of things about it. But we're an organization that's comprised of about 50 faith-based organizations, you're being one. We've been around since 1969. And we take care of the lowest level basic needs of the Alexandria city community primarily, but we don't turn anybody away. Just want to make sure that's perfectly clear. So if somebody comes here from Arlington, they will be recipients as well. So we have 5 different programs. We're primarily known for food, and one of our subtitles, I guess, is that we're more than a food bank, because we are more than a food bank. Known for food, but we do a lot of other things as well. And we were first known, when I first started volunteering with Alive, we had the end of the month food distributions, we used to call them, where people would come in from all around, and then during COVID it evolved to a drive-through. But what it's evolved to again is we have not only those end of the month food distributions, but we have service navigation hubs, or food hubs as we call them. One in the west end of Alexandria and one in Del Rey, close to Chiralago, where some of the greatest needs are. And somebody who's in need can come there and they can get shelf-stable foods. They can get, not just shelf-stable foods, they can come to our freezers and get meats and just different things. And it's also a place where we point somebody somewhere else. So if somebody comes and they're from Arlington, for example, we don't say, sorry, we can't take care of you. We say, here's what we can give you now, and here's a list of other resources that exist in another area where you may reside. We do furniture, so we're furniture distribution programs. We've got trucks that go out Saturdays and Sundays. Somebody says, I've got something to donate. Somebody says, I've got something to need. We put those people together. And before I forget, that we is not the staff of Alive. You know, there is a small staff. Volunteers. We have thousands of volunteers, a wonderful volunteer database. No doubt there's volunteers from your own congregation who've served us as well. Other than the 2 that I know for sure, Diana Day and Anne-Marie Hay, who serve as the congregational representatives for your own congregation. Financial assistance is something else we provide. Somebody is about to be evicted, we can help out with that. Somebody about to get their light shut off, their water turned off, we can help out with that as well, as long as those funds exist to be able to do all of that. We also do food deliveries from that financial assistance program. So it's wonderful if we can provide all the food that we get in from donations and from the National Capillary Food Bank. But what if somebody can't get there? So we do food deliveries for those people who are unable to be able to come get the food. We bring the food to them. And the last 2 programs are housewares. So it's wonderful if we can take an empty house and deliver furniture to it, but then you look around and there's no plates, there's no curtains, there's no pillows, there's no bedding or anything like that. We have a housewares program as well that people donate to. And last but not least, homeless. We have a small homeless shelter that's in Old Town. So any of the funds that we get, that we bring in, or any of the funds that we raise, also go to the homeless shelter, which is primarily for abused women and their families and their children. We have 2 major fundraising activities, and the one that is most widespread is called Step Alive. And I don't know if anybody's had a chance. I guess I'll just ask you, raise your hand if you've ever been involved in Step Alive, because I see some excitement out there. So Step Alive is our 5K or 5-mile walk. We added a new route this year, and we went through, so Old Town is what we've always done, but we also went through Del Rey this year and hit every Alive congregation that was there. And again, there are 50 Alive congregations spread all throughout Alexandria, and then a couple of outliers as well. So I just want to, not going to take up all the time here, but I just want to thank you all for everything you've done. It's very welcoming to be here and to come in and see how inclusive everything is. I don't think I noticed the trees all over the windows, but that's definitely where kindred spirits there too, because the Alive symbol is the tree. So thank you all for what you've done what in the past, what you do now, and what you prayerfully will continue to do in the future to support Alive.
Amen.
Yeah, more information about Lives in the order of service. We collect checks and cash, and there's also a QR code in your order of service. Will the ushers please collect the offering? We'll now bless the offering. The words are in your order of service. We bless and receive these gifts, opening our hearts to true generosity. Let us be grateful when we give, be it time, talent, or treasure. Let us be grateful for our needs and the experience of vulnerability. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts to nurture this congregation. Today's reading is from the Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt, a Unitarian Universalist minister and former president of the Starr King School for the Ministry. More information about Reverend McNatt is in the mosaic insert to the order of service. Evil is not as complex as our explanations about it are. Whenever we try to explain it, we fall back on our own experiences, the deep betrayals, our bitter losses. We find ourselves speechless and ineffective in the face of larger structural evils, revealed to us with chilling regularity. A law enforcement system that leads to unarmed Black people being shot by police every day of the year, and wars by remote control that are no less deadly for their distance. However we describe the means by which we experience evil, its source remains the same. Our capacity to turn in on ourselves so completely that we lose sight of both our connections to others and to that greater source that binds us together. Whenever we forget who we are, whose we are, and what our relationship to one another is, there lies the breeding ground for evil. It is that loss of essential memory which leads to individual actions and collective structures that reflect and even reinforce that terrible disconnect. Evil has its origins in the abandonment of hope and meaning among those who have lost or never known their core identity, children of the holy, siblings to all people on the earth.
Zeke, thank you so much for that reading, and choir, thank you for that beautiful music. Ushers, thank you for wearing matching clothing. Did you notice that? I'm a color person, and they were in like the same greens and oranges. And Deacon Willis, we are grateful to have you with us talking about Alive today. I also just want to name the inspiration that I draw and this congregation draws from Alfred Street Baptist Church, which, as you may have heard, recently raised as a body, chose to raise $1 million to forgive back rents in Alexandria. Alfred Street Baptist Church has Alfred Street Baptist Church has, for many decades and indeed centuries, been a beacon in the community. And I just want to name that and say how humbled and inspired we are at this congregation by your witness at Alfred Street. Thank you, as well as your work for Alive, and I'm grateful for your support for that. You know, every once in a while, I choose a topic that on later reflection makes me wonder whether my past self had some kind of unknown grudge against my present self. That is, the self that actually has to pull the topic together into something coherent that lasts 15 minutes or so. Relatedly, I look forward in this second part of our 4-part sermon series on theology in the Unitarian Universalist tradition to telling you about, the nature of evil, how we can engage meaningfully in the concept of atonement, and why, despite the world around us, this is a religious tradition that continues to claim that all are saved. Also, what we think it means to be saved. So, great. That's super. I guess we should start at the top of the list. Or perhaps, actually, we will start at the end. Both the end of my list and, for many, in a metaphysical understanding, the end of our lives. What does it mean to be saved? For us, in this Unitarian Universalist tradition, in this congregation, in this moment, what does it mean to be saved? In a modern American parlance, we often imagine or experience a very individual experience of someone being saved or not saved. We think about that particularly within the evangelical and especially white evangelical concept of personal salvation, although there are roots in many branches of the Christian tradition. The division of people between ultimately good and ultimately evil, between heaven and hell, with, depending on your theology, some time in purgatory, which is where you wait long enough to make up for the bad things you've done that weren't bad enough for hell, or limbo, where babies who hadn't yet received the chance to be baptized went, and which was relatively recently ended as a theological concept by the Catholic Church. That was in 2007 by Pope Benedict. The key in all of this, though, is division. Heaven or hell, saved or damned, good or evil. Well, I don't much go in for binaries. And indeed, our ancestors, the Universalists, had quite a different idea. Sometimes we talk about our history as being a history of heretics. The Unitarians who held the heresy of the unity, not the Trinity of God, and the heresy of the erasure of original sin from their theology, and the Universalists who held the heresy of universal salvation. The idea that the loving God of the Christian tradition in which they arose would not ultimately separate God's people, any of God's people, from God's self. Now, that idea of universal salvation, it was in the 19th century in particular popping up around the world, especially in England and in America. And of course, people were reading each other's writing and reading each other's preaching and listening to that and sharing what they heard and read. But I like to think about the people who read about a loving God in the Bible and who felt the presence of that love among the trees, perhaps, or gazing into the night sky and just thought, well, that whole burning in the fires of hell thing, that can't be right. And who, out of a conviction of their hearts, which is how many Christians became Universalists, still Christians, right? The 19th century Universalists, out of a conviction in their heart, thought to themselves, if God is love, then surely all of us will be part of that love one day. There's a whole history, of course, of universalism in the 19th century and then moving forward, particularly in the United States. That's the part that Unitarian Universalist ministers tend to study in our preparation for the ministry. And kind of chief among those thinkers was Hosea Ballou. And so I can't tell you about universalism, about the idea of all being saved, without at least reading you a quote from Hosea Ballou. This is from his treatise on atonement. Ballou wrote, "There is nothing in heaven above, nor in the earth beneath, that can do away with sin but love. And we have reason to be eternally thankful that love is stronger than death, that many waters cannot quench it, nor the floods drown it, that it hath power to remove the moral maladies of humankind. O love, thou great physician of souls, what work hast thou undertaken? One can begin to see the centrality of love in our theology, even all the way back to Hosea Ballou. Perhaps slightly different language than we might use today. I don't say hast all that much, but the idea, I think, is the same, that love is the biggest piece of all. Now, these early Universalists had a lot of theories about how Universalism would work because they, like us, looked around the world and did not perhaps see that everyone looked particularly deserving of that universal salvation that they were believing in. And their theories included actually purgatory, as well as other ways that people would sort of pay off debts or get themselves ready. But the end result of all of that was always the same, that everyone ultimately would be reconciled with God, with God's self. And more theologically, important perhaps for me and maybe for us today, that a way of understanding that everyone will be saved is that everyone is in this together. We are saved or not together. There is no me making it to some beautiful place, whether it is beyond this world or here within it, if you are not also making it to that beautiful place. We can't have only some of us make it. That, at its heart, is the concept of universal salvation. We're in it together. So that, I would say, is what we mean when we say we are all saved. They're at the end of my list of theological concepts I'm getting through. In the next, I'm down to 9 minutes. And it is, for Unitarian Universalists, always our starting place. We're all in it together. And I believe if we head back up to the top of the list, that idea that we're all in it together actually tells us what we need to know in our theological setting about the nature of evil. Within the Unitarian Universalist tradition, when we talk about evil, and I will say that often we do not talk about evil, and so I want to just name some of the challenges of kind of progressive, particularly late 19th and early 20th century Unitarianism especially, and progressive religious thought in general, which had a sort of onward and upward forever optimistic understanding of human nature, which didn't cope with the realities of systemic oppression, the realities of violence in the world, and was accessible primarily to people who had the chance for pretty good lives, right? I want to name the challenge of that and the response by neo-orthodoxy. Anyway, we can't get into all of that, but let's just say that the 20th century invited us and required us as progressive religious thinkers to grapple with evil in deep ways. When we talk about evil in Unitarian Universalism, we are most often talking about systemic evil, because we know that the interconnectedness, the sense of being all one, which we hold with such love and joy, that we are in it together in such beautiful and deep ways, also has a flip side. That we are also in it together and caught in the systems of oppression in our society, in the ways that people act with power over instead of power with. Now, individual acts of evil certainly exist, we all know that, but almost always, I find, we can trace it back in some ways to a system that has drawn out that evil, that has magnified it and allowed it and encouraged it. The way, for instance, that patriarchy and misogyny are so often at the heart of individual acts of domestic violence, for instance. There are theological explanations for the existence of evil. We had a good time with some of those in last week's theology class. As usual, I tend to be less interested in the source of the impulse than I am in the reality and what we do with it, acknowledging that we hold within us the capacity both to do good and to do evil, to choose right and wrong, and that, frankly, most of the time we end up somewhere in a mix of the two. I suspect that the origins are in scarcity and fear, as the Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt reminded us in the reading, in our forgetting of our connection to each other. And that we build, we people, humans, from that space, developing reasons why some of us should have more than others of us, and eventually those reasons ossify and shape our systems, our culture, and our world. In the Jewish tradition, the term Yetzer Hara is a term for humankind's kind of inborn inclination to do evil, the possibility that it exists within each of us. I have heard this described as an inclination to turn away from the divine pull toward right, toward good, toward love, a kind of turning one's face away from God, sometimes called spiritual blindness. Bray McNatt might describe this as forgetting that we are one, that we are connected, forgetting that we're in this together, and imagining instead that we are divided from one another. Now, here's the thing. It is easy to stay in a space of thinking about these big systems and about the big actors in them, the people that we can point to and name and say what that person over there is doing is evil. But the harder reality is that we are all of us caught in that web, just the way we are caught in the beautiful side of being in it together. And none of us ultimately is able to escape from that. Whether that's me as a white person finding that I have entrenched within me vestiges of racism, of unconscious bias, simply from swimming in the racist muck of this society, or whether that's me as someone purchasing an iPhone that uses technology and manufacturing methods that, if I thought about it for more than the half second that I can tolerate it, would surely horrify me. All of us are, in one way or another, caught in those systems, complicit in them, even as we seek to act against them. And we hold what some call the moral injury of that, the experience of being stuck in ways that are not in line with our values. We're all in this together. We're all saved together, or we're not. And we're all responsible together. And ignoring either of those things, I think, is a kind of soul death. And so we get to the middle of my list, atonement. Atonement, the reckoning with failure, the way that we move from naming a failure in our own lives, small or large, and atoning for it, doing right, apologizing, making penance, however we might frame it. I think that we are often unwilling to recognize our failure. The Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd, who authored After the Good News, in which she grappled with progressive religious theology in the wake of a broken world, quoted James Baldwin at the beginning of one of those chapters. Here's how the quote reads. I imagine that one of the reasons people cling to their hates so stubbornly is because they sense, once hate is gone, that they will be forced to deal with pain. The chapter that quote precedes is about rituals of lament and atonement, rituals that help us to name the pain we feel in the gap between how we wish the world were and how it is. And even more, how we wish we were in our motives and in our actions, and how indeed we are through our failures, or through the inescapable network of systemic evils that we find ourselves caught in. We need in Unitarian Universalism theologies of atonement, of repent, rituals of lament and confession, so that we can find a way forward, not just to go beyond that pain we feel in the gap, but simply to exist with it. I once heard that the lack of these kinds of theologies and rituals in Unitarian Universalism is an impediment to our anti-racism work as a body, because without a way to move through the pain, those of us who are white in this movement stick there in a place of pain and shame and find them harder to face our own biases and the work to move beyond. The capacity to name the pain of that gap is central to being able to move to close the gap, to create a world more in line with that we wish for in the deepest part of ourselves. In her book, After the Good News, MacDonald Ladd talks about metanoia, which is a Greek word. It's always Greek words with our theology in Unitarian Universalism, which is actually a whole other sermon about what we're missing, but anyway. She talks about metanoia, which is a change of mind or a change of character. And the idea that part of what we can do as we seek to lament and to atone and then to move forward, because that's the key part of it, right, is to keep ourselves in a constant state of metanoia, a constant state of change of mind or change of character, to be receptive always to the possibility of our own failure, of our own doing wrong, and therefore able to change next time, right? If we think we've never done wrong, we won't be able to do right the next time. So what do we do with all of that? Last week, in the beginning of this sermon series, we talked about love. And we talked about the kind of love we put at the center, a growing love, a liberating love, a love that gives space for our own growth and liberation. In After the Good News, MacDonald Ladd writes, if God's name is love, then God compels us to resist the fall to sinful violence by pushing back with muscular resolve against the social structures that confine our capacity to care. A universalist God for a tragic era is not a gauzy, hymn-singing force of personal devotion that draws us endlessly toward itself, but a fierce and compelling power that grips us by the collar amid our rebellious descent and calls us to choose the will to mutuality all over again, even when that choice is so risky that it could utterly remake us. The will to mutuality, the reminder that we belong to each other, the refusal to forget whose we are. The insistence in this tradition that we're all saved or not, that we're in it together. That, in the end, is our response to evil, but we have to choose it over and over again. I think thanks. That'll wrap. Next week, we have a guest speaker who's not part of our theological sermon series, but I do want to make sure you know about it. I think that it's going to fit right in. Joel Novi, who is a climate activist working out of the Jewish tradition, will be with us talking about the religious pull to climate activism. So I hope you will join us. And then we're going to talk about inherent worth and the concept of practical or applied theology explored through our flower communion. And finally, we're going to do process theology and the idea that God is change. And I think it's going to all wrap up somewhere around love. So we'll find out together. Will you rise now in body or in spirit and join in our closing music, which is perhaps familiar to you and invites us to love, This Little Light of Mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Amen.
We will now extinguish the chalice. The words are in your order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light and warmth it represents. These we carry with us, bringing our sparks of love to the world.
Remember to make that love a liberating one. And as we are caught in systems of oppression, remember we are caught too in a net of care, in a world of oneness. We are in this together. Amen.
So as the choir makes their way up, this last piece comes from North Carolina. It's about a community that was experiencing harm through an energy plant that was spilling coal ash into poor and BIPOC communities. And this song came up in a town meeting in response to that hurt and that harm. So we're looking forward to singing this for you. Feel free to sing along. The words are far too long. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on. I'll tell you it's gone on. Far too long. Yes, it's gone on. Far too long. Whoa, whoa, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on. Far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's trying to divide us, and it's gone on far too long. I'll tell you, it's gone on far too long. Oh, it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's trying to divide us, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's hurting our siblings, and it's gone on far too long. Oh, it's gone on far too long. I'll tell you, it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's hurting our siblings, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's hurting our sisters, and it's gone on far too long. I'll tell you, it's gone on far too long. Who said it's gone on far too long? Oh, somebody's hurting our sisters, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. And we won't be silent. 2 more times now. And we won't be silent